Imagine living in a place above the clouds where even breathing is a challenge, where the cold freezes you to the bone. Every step takes effort, and thousands of people live at over 16,700 feet above sea level, at the very edge of human survival. This place exists. It's called La Rinconada in the Peruvian Andes, considered the highest city in the world. But the burning question is, what drives thousands of people to live under such extreme conditions? La Rinconada is a chaotic, makeshift settlement perched atop Peru's snow-covered mountains. There, the thin air contains about 50% less oxygen than at sea level. For those unaccustomed, it takes only a few minutes to feel headaches, nausea, dizziness, and even face the risk of death from cerebral or pulmonary edema. And yet, between 30,000 and 50,000 people live in this inhospitable place. There is no basic sanitation, no fully equipped hospitals, no garbage collection. The streets are narrow, muddy, and lined with shacks made of tin and wood. The landscape is dominated by open mines and piles of mining waste, blending with the melting ice from the glaciers. So why do so many people keep coming? The answer is simple and at the same time cruel: gold. La Rinconada is located in the Puno region of the Peruvian Andes, near the border with Bolivia. It sits on the slopes of the La Bella Durmiente Glacier, at more than 16,000 feet above sea level. The climate is harsh. In winter, temperatures drop to 12 degrees Fahrenheit. In summer, the streets turn to mud, the result of melting ice and seasonal rains. Agriculture is virtually non-existent. The soil is rocky, frozen, and infertile. No crops grow in these conditions. The little food that reaches the city comes from neighboring towns, carried in by trucks navigating winding, dangerous roads. The engine of the local economy comes down to one thing: gold mining, and it is done in a rudimentary, makeshift way without large companies overseeing the activity. The city grew haphazardly around the mines, attracting people from all over Peru and even Bolivia who see gold as their chance to change their lives. But living in La Rinconada means giving up any comfort. The city has no sewage system. Trash piles up in the streets. The water people drink is drawn directly from melted glacier ice, often contaminated with mercury and cyanide used to separate the gold. Respiratory illnesses, poisonings, and infections are common, and still the population continues to grow. In La Rinconada, the day begins before sunrise. At 5 a.m., when the cold still cuts through the skin, thousands of men leave their shacks carrying pickaxes, shovels, and headlamps. They walk through the narrow streets, cross the frozen mud, and climb up to the mine entrances, where they spend up to 12 hours a day digging. Women often work as well, not inside the tunnels, but on the waste piles. There, with the shovels and improvised sieves, they search for tiny fragments of gold that may have escaped the extraction process. It's grueling labor, done outdoors under snow, rain, or scorching sun. The houses are nothing more than makeshift shacks. They're built from old wooden planks, sheets of tin, and plastic. The floors are just packed dirt, and there's no heating. At night, temperatures inside can drop below freezing. To stay warm, families rely on coal or wood stoves, which fill the air with smoke and cause respiratory problems. The city has no sewage system and no garbage collection. Human waste is dumped into buckets or directly onto the streets, creating an environment ripe for infections and contamination. One of the biggest problems is the lack of hospitals. The nearest medical care is hours away, down winding and dangerous roads. Constant exposure to mercury, used in crude methods of separating gold, causes severe neurological damage and chronic illnesses. Researchers have already found alarming levels of contamination among residents. On top of that, the lack of basic sanitation drives up cases of intestinal infections, parasites, and respiratory diseases. With the altitude and barren soil, nothing grows in La Rinconada. Whatever food reaches the residents comes by truck, hauled up the mountain. The diet is simple: rice, potatoes, eggs, and llama or alpaca meat brought from neighboring regions. Bread is one of the most common staples, usually eaten with tea or strong coffee to help endure the cold. Fresh meat is rare. More often, meals rely on canned goods sold in makeshift markets. For many, lunch is nothing more than a quick piece of bread with tea before heading back to the mines. The main meal usually happens at night when the family gathers around a small pot of soup made with potatoes and, when possible, a little bit of meat. To withstand the altitude and physical strain, nearly all miners chew coca leaves. This ancestral practice helps reduce hunger, fatigue, and the effects of oxygen deprivation. Experts emphasize that chewing coca is not hallucinogenic, but rather a natural way to ease altitude sickness and endure long workdays without proper rest. Coca tea is also part of daily life for those living in La Rinconada's extreme altitude. For locals, it's more than just a drink. It's a survival tool. The tea helps relieve altitude symptoms like headaches, shortness of breath, and constant fatigue, allowing workers to keep going. Drinking a cup of coca tea is almost a daily ritual. In the morning to warm up before braving the icy mines, after meals to aid digestion, and at night to help relax before sleep. The miners' routine is brutal. Without proper protective gear, they enter narrow, damp tunnels, breathing in dust and toxic gases. Many carry heavy rocks for dozens of meters, using nothing but their own strength. Others handle makeshift explosives to blast open passages in the rock. Payment in La Rinconada follows a practice known as the cachorreo system, an old rule that shapes the fate of thousands of miners. For 30 straight days, a worker goes into the mine, digs, hauls rocks, and endures the freezing cold without earning a single cent. Only on the 31st day is he allowed to go in alone and keep whatever he finds. It could be, enough gold to change his life, or nothing more than worthless rocks. This system works like a brutal game of chance. There are stories of men who walked out of the mine in a single day with months' worth of wealth in their hands, but there are also those who spend weeks, even months, without finding anything of value. Experts see cachorreo as a disguised form of exploitation, one that traps workers in a cycle of dependence and uncertainty. Studies suggest that only about 20% of miners manage to find enough gold to make the effort worthwhile. Most live in a fragile hand-to-mouth economy, betting every day between the slim chance of striking it rich and the far more likely outcome of walking away empty-handed. While the adults are in the mines, many children spend their days on the dirt streets. Some help their mothers sift through mining tailings, while others sell candy and tea from makeshift carts. Few attend school since La Rinconada has no proper educational system. Many end up entering the mining workforce early, repeating the cycle of their parents. A 46-year-old miner, interviewed by researchers, summed up life in the village. "Here, you either work until you drop or you don't survive. The mine doesn't forgive. Any day could be your last." A woman who lives off sifting mine waste said, "We have no choice. If I don't come to look for gold, we don't eat. But every day I wonder if my children will have the same life I do." These testimonies reveal not only the physical hardship, but also the psychological burden faced by those living more than 16,000 feet above sea level. On top of everything else, La Rinconada, the highest city in the world, faces not only the hardships of mining, but also a harsh social reality. In its narrow, freezing streets, prostitution has become a means of survival for many women, while child sexual exploitation reveals the most painful face of local vulnerability. The absence of effective public policies and the lack of social assistance make this situation even more critical. The health of the population is also deeply affected. Daily exposure to mercury, poor nutrition, and unsanitary living conditions drastically reduce life expectancy. Many residents rarely reach 50 years old, and countless die in their 40s, far below the national average, exposing the invisible burden carried by this community. The city also suffers from rampant violence and institutional collapse, known as the Ciudad Sin Ley del Peru, Peru's lawless city. La Rinconada is plagued by constant clashes between criminal gangs that control territory, mines, protection rackets, and the informal trade. Local miners report 2 to 3 murders a day, reflecting the severity of violence driven largely by disputes over illegal mining. There isn't even a properly structured police station. The only one functions in an improvised, inadequate space lent by a cooperative. Just a handful of officers are responsible for the entire city. Despite the extreme conditions, La Rinconada keeps alive traditions that blend Catholicism with ancient Andean beliefs. One of the most powerful symbols in the region is the worship of Pachamama, or Mother Earth. Before entering the mines, many workers leave offerings, coca leaves, cigarettes, or even small amounts of alcohol, asking for protection against cave-ins and accidents. Inside the mines, workers also perform rituals dedicated to El Tío, a guardian spirit represented by clay or stone statues placed in the tunnels. El Tío is seen as the owner of the underground world, and earning his blessing is believed to be essential both to finding gold and to making it out alive. In the center of town, there are also chapels dedicated to Catholic saints, where families gather for Mass. This fusion of beliefs reflects the cultural resilience of the Andes, shaped both by indigenous spirituality and by the legacy of Spanish colonization. Even in the face of so much adversity, residents still find moments to celebrate. During local festivals, Andean music fills the streets, accompanied by traditional dances and the drinking of chicha, a fermented corn beverage. These celebrations not only preserve cultural identity, but also serve as an emotional release in the midst of an exhausting daily routine. Living in La Rinconada isn't just about enduring the cold or the lack of oxygen. It's about carrying a unique identity. Residents take pride in surviving conditions that would be unbearable for most outsiders. The idea of belonging to the mountain is so deeply rooted that many see themselves as heirs to an ancient resilience, direct descendants of the Andean peoples who ruled the highlands long before Spanish colonization. This cultural heritage is present in every detail, in the Quechua language, still spoken by part of the population, in the colorful alpaca wool clothing, and in the simple yet nourishing cuisine based on potatoes, corn, and grains, adapted to the harsh climate. One of the biggest concerns for experts is the lack of opportunities for young people. Many children begin early by helping sift through mining waste or selling food to miners. With few schools and almost no access to secondary education, most never have a chance to break free from the mining cycle. The result is an almost inevitable continuity, sons replacing fathers inside the mines, perpetuating the system. For anyone who has never lived at high altitudes, La Rinconada is almost unbearable. Within just a few hours, visitors begin to feel the effects of soroche, altitude sickness. The headaches are intense, fatigue sets in even during the simplest tasks, and breathing never feels like enough. Many experience nausea, dizziness, and even difficulty thinking clearly, all direct symptoms of oxygen deprivation. In some cases, the effects can be severe, swelling in the brain or lungs, conditions that can be fatal if left untreated. That's why, while locals are adapted from birth, outsiders often need days or even weeks to adjust, if they can endure it at all. La Rinconada isn't just the highest city in the world, it's also a living portrait of human endurance. Amid freezing temperatures, thin air, violence, and the absence of even the most basic infrastructure, thousands of people remain there every single day, chasing a better future. Even if it feels like it may never come, hope is the fuel. Many residents dream of leaving the town, but few succeed. And when they do descend from the altitude, their bodies need time to readjust. La Rinconada defies logic. There are no paved roads, no modern hospitals, no basic sanitation, and yet it keeps growing. Year after year, more families arrive, drawn by the gold hidden in the mountains, and it's in this contrast that its uniqueness lies, a settlement above the clouds where survival itself is an act of courage and persistence. And what about you? Would you have the courage to live in a place like La Rinconada, the highest city in the world? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know what struck you the most about life in this village. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to catch more real and striking stories of communities that push the very limits of human survival.